All right, so the legs are streamlined. All right, so basically I'm trying to make my body as much as I can like a dolphin for as much of each stroke cycle as possible. All right, so I'll just do a little slow-mo direction here, and you can see how long my right hand stays in place. I'm being really patient about taking that stroke because I don't want to move my right hand until my left hip drives. Because if my right hand goes first, I've got to use arm muscles, and arm muscles get tired. All right? If I use the arm muscles to just hold my arm in a position that's giving me some traction, all right, and then drive the left hip down, I'm using gravity and body mass, and that doesn't cost me anything. All right, so here comes the left hand into the water. I've got both hands in front of me, which keeps wave drag lower. I've kept my body line longer for more of the stroke. And now is the power moment of the stroke, which is the left hip driving down and the right foot, the left hip and the right foot driving down at the same moment. Now watch the right hip and the left foot drive at the same moment. And together they drive my right hand to that spot. All right, so the propulsion is not from arms and legs working independently, which is what buoys and paddles and kickboards imprint and reinforce, but getting arms and legs to work together through the core, all right? Because when my left foot drives and my right hand spears at the same moment, every muscle in between them has been activated. There's a lot of power produced if I can activate every muscle at the same moment. There's a lot of muscle between here and here, right? Pretty much all the muscle in my body, and it fires at the same moment. And a pretty significant amount of power is produced, but no individual fiber has to work very hard, which means my lactate production is going to be kept low. All right? So every stroke is meant to be that way. And what we'll go on to now is, next, creating the perpetual motion freestyle. All right, so these are all excerpts from our video Easy Freestyle, which is for sale down in the expo area. And again, I'm going to point out that there is nothing naturally occurring in this stroke. All right, this is a stroke that's created by choice and thought. And a lot of time spent imprinting things that don't come naturally. So in the first, and when we're teaching this, we have an activity we call Superman Glide. And in Superman Glide, it's just like Dead Man's Float, except you're moving. All right? And what you're imprinting is that the arms are on wide tracks at shoulder width, not to come to across the center. The head is hanging between the ears. Head is hanging between the shoulders, and the legs are drafting. That's a 20-meter pool, not a full 25-yard pool. But you can see the hands are relaxed. They're at shoulder width. The head is hanging. I've begun to kick here, but I'm thinking I'm kicking as an active streamline. I'm not kicking to kick, but I'm kicking to activate my streamline. All right? A second step is to learn to relax the head. We don't always teach this, but it's helpful if the arms are at the side and you just really let the head hang. And we want the arms molded to the side, not just hanging out there, because we want to form a torpedo-like shape with the body. But the top center of my head, where the head-spine line would project, I think of that as the laser beam. So releasing the head to just hang in the water. Feel the water support the head. Feel how your hips and legs become light as a result when you release your head. All right? And then visualize the laser beam projecting in the direction you want to travel. Laser beam being the top where the head spine line would project. All right? At the next step, we work on teaching rotation, and the amount of rotation is consequential. Most people rotate too much or too little. They either stay flat, or when they rotate, they go to a stacked position. And all the benefits of rotation are there when you rotate just enough to clear one shoulder. You don't have to rotate any further than that, all right? The liability of rotating further is when you rotate to a stacked position, you bring everything to the center line, and it's kind of like the water equivalent of walking a tightrope, All right, things are unsteady. You've got lateral instability when everything comes to the center line. So, however, to not rotate to the center line and be rotated only a little bit, you've really got to have your spinal stabilizers, your midline stabilizers tuned up to maintain that position. All right, because it's actually more difficult to rotate a little bit and hold that position than it is to stack and have all the weight supported. So you've really got to activate the midline stabilizers. The most important muscles in swimming are not the ones you can see. They're the deep abdominals, the spinal stabilizers, the midline stabilizers, because they do two things. When I send my right arm down the track and aim it at the target, and then want to hold that line and keep traveling like a laser forward, while my left arm is coming forward, it's my midline stabilizers that keeps my body line steady as I do that, all right? And then when I get to here and I'm ready to drive down, and I don't want to have to use arm and shoulder muscles, but just connect this to the power that's going to be generated from the hip drive, it's midline stabilizers that do that. All right, it's not the big muscles that everybody focuses on when they're in the weight room. And how do you develop these muscles? You could do yoga, you could do Pilates. Really, you have to be in the water in a horizontal position, dealing with the instability, trying to hold positions. Because it's not so much about making them strong. You walk around all day, they have to support your posture. It's not that they require strength, they need to learn the task. That's the thing about the midline stabilizers. This is a task. You spend 99% of your life vertical in a gravity environment standing on your balance. You get in the water, you're horizontal, you're hanging from your balance, you're tremendously unstable. That's a task your nervous system is not prepared by life for. All right? You've got to learn the task by getting them to do it, by doing various exercises. And I think one of the points I want to make is you become a good swimmer by not getting to the end of the pool and thinking about getting to the other end and back again, all right? But thinking about what happens between here and there, and a lot of things have to happen to make efficiency, which does not come normally to us, to make efficiency something that becomes second nature through practice. So choosing a certain amount of rotation, all right? And then when we progress to switch drills, the rotation I've imprinted is the same, and then when I start swimming, I am rotating the same degree. Not more, not less. All right? I've practiced my degree of rotation, and then I use it. All right? These are just some exercises for a new set of habits for breathing, which is to keep your laser beam pointing ahead, not to have your laser beam move in some other direction when you roll to breathe, and breathing by rotating your body to the air, this is further than you would normally, but you start with simple exercises where you start to form a habit of laser beam points forward, and I breathe with body roll, not by turning my head. All right? Find the path of least resistance. I'm going to give you a bigger full screen here so we can see this a little better. So this is our skating drill, and what I'm showing here is the effect of something a lot of people do, which is recover with an arm swing that brings the hand to or across the center line. All right? And the consequence of recovering this way to bring your hand to or across the center line is it causes your whole body to over-rotate. So the cost of over-rotation is you become unstable there. All right, you have to use more muscle to move body mass farther and bring it back again. And then finally is you just swim slower because it takes longer to get from here to here than it does to get from here to here. And you're not traveling any further, so if it's taking longer to travel the same distance, you're going slower. All right, so we don't want to over-rotate, and therefore what we want to do is when I talked about every time I take a stroke to drive my hand to a particular place, well, I've worked out the X coordinate for where my hand should go. It should be right in front of my shoulder, which helps ensure that my rotation is that just rotating the shoulder just above the surface is the rotation I will have. All right? And then I will do some exercises working on the Y coordinate to see what's the cost, what happens when my hand comes up to the surface. All right, if it's up there when it goes in the water. What would cause it to go up there? Two things. Stiff hand, all right? Because you learned in Red Cross that you have to form your hand into a paddle or a cup, so you stiffen it. what happens when you stiffen it is it scoops to the surface when it goes in.